It's a bright and overcast afternoon here in Greenville today. Perfect weather for some flying. That's right, I said flying. Accompanying me on today's railroad journey is Nick Drone Delahaye, a master drone pilot and the owner and operator of a lovely DJI Maverick Pro drone. After all, today's weather is perfect for an eye in the sky. Go. This device has revolutionized railroad photography. It's no bigger than the palm of my hand, fits comfortably within a school backpack, and is controlled by an iPhone. Yet, this little device offers angles and views never before conceived by rail fans. It really is the biggest game changer of the 21st century. And when you look at the footage it captures, it's easy to see why. I composed an entire video regarding the Saluda River trestle, yet no footage I captured on the ground could even come close to capturing the splendor seen by the drone. Just take a second to take it all in. It's spectacular. I can't even fathom how this shot would look with a train roaring over the bridge. From the sky, a world once thought to be familiar becomes new and exciting. Take, for example, the Saluda River Dam, which is appearing over the road bridge. It's currently releasing water after heavy rain this morning. What would be a fabulous day's camera work from the bridge becomes a stunning shot from the air. We really can appreciate the power and magnitude of the water this dam holds back, as well as the fury of thousands of gallons of water a minute being released from this dam. Unfortunately, the drone does not capture sound audio, as all you would hear was the trrrr of the propellers. But if it did, you would hear cascades of water rushing down concrete and into the Saluda River below. This really is a sight to behold. You're now panning to the right, towards the Saluda Dam Operations and Substation Center. What used to be a power substation is now merely a humble operations center for the release and stoppage of water. It also monitors water conditions, temperature, and other basic scientific measurements for scientists, researchers, and amateur water enthusiasts alike. Flying over the Saluda River, we can now see the aptly named Saluda Dam Road, and just behind it, the magnificent Saluda River Rail Trestle. For such a small device, this drone really has some speed to it. It also has the ability to reach lofty heights, as it can fly thousands upon thousands of feet in the air with no problem at all. We're taking that to our advantage as we do a panoramic overview of the entire Saluda River complex. Here we see the dam, the road bridge, and finally, the old trestle and one magnificent panoramic view. I'm clearly really enjoying what I'm seeing here. What they said about drones is true. It does offer unparalleled viewing experiences. It's certainly proved its worth to me on these unmoving large objects, but I can't wait to see how the drone handles a roaring freight train zooming by. I was hoping we'd have a drone train encounter very soon, but unfortunately, the train I was tracking had idled at Greenville. So, content with the shots we already captured and not wanting to waste any more battery life on empty tracks, we decided to initiate the landing procedure. Watch now as Nick carefully handles his drone back down to the ground. It takes some serious skill to fly one of these things, skill which I'm glad Nick has, because I certainly don't. Now, drones are certainly a zesty phenomenon, but we came out here to see trains after all, so we decided to make tracks towards our idling train sitting in Greenville Yard. We didn't know what it could be, but we figured it'd be a manifest or one of the 237 or 8 trains waiting clearance to proceed. What we didn't expect was one of the most legendary locomotives on the Norfolk Southern, a high hood unit. I was ecstatic with excitement. This was the third time I'd seen a rare train completely by surprise. The Greenville district just keeps delivering the goods, and I just keep happening to be at the right place at the right time. I was so captivated with the high hood unit that I didn't even notice the slew of other rare locomotives lashed up to this southbound 237. What was perceived to be an equipment move by the Norfolk Southern was an iron horse parade for me here on the ground. Locomotives of every shape and size slowly rumbled by. There were so many locomotives to choose from that I got confused about which one was which. I thought this one was the high hood. They all looked the same from the back. I know that's not true, but I'm afraid there's no time to make amends for my previous comments, because here comes Norfolk Southern 5004, the GP38 High Hood Unit. Train chases are becoming quite a frequent occurrence here in Mainline South, and today's train is no different. Its slow speed meant I would have no problem in leapfrogging it ahead to the nearest overlook. Racing down the old Easley Highway, I found a grassy strip to park upon, hopped out of my car, and sure enough, 237 was rumbling right towards me. I had lined up a perfect shot to capture the high hood, but first I'd have to play the waiting game. 237 was going slow. Really slow. He didn't even have his ditch lights on. This started to get me thinking, maybe he's not heading out to Atlanta. Maybe he's just building his train. Sure enough, the lead locomotive of train number 237 took its grand old time to crawl right up past my camera before coming to a slow and uncertain stop. Being unfamiliar with the train's planned movements, I didn't know whether to pan with the lead locomotive or stay still and wait for the high hood to roll by. Considering the angle of the mid-afternoon sunlight, I decided to stay put and just let the locomotive come to a stop in front of me. This proved to be a good decision because I was given the opportunity to marvel at a regular who's who of Norfolk Southern motive power. If the high hood wouldn't come to me, I would go to it. ATCS told me this train wasn't moving anytime soon, so I took a stroll down the road, intending to capture as much high hood footage as my camera would allow. Norfolk Southern locomotive number 5004 is an electromotive division GP38 high hood unit, often used for remote control yard work. Joining the high hood-dominated fleet of the Southern Railway in 1972, before having its ownership being transferred over to the newly created Norfolk Southern Railway after the Southern and Norfolk and Western merger of 1982, this NS High Hood 5004 has served the railroad reliably for over 50 years, racking up hundreds of thousands of operating miles in the process. That's one reliable unit. Coincidentally, this high hood unit is facing down another Norfolk Southern favorite. The SD60E is a 2010 custom-build model after the EMD SD60 unit. These locomotives have had a unique history wrought with controversy due to some, shall we say, rather unique design choices on the head end. Riding dead in tow directly behind the SD60E are two other locomotives, both Gevos, and one of which looks brand new with a dazzling paint job. Turning our attention back to the high hood unit, I am taken by its unique form and figure. That tall section in front of the cab, known as, well, a high hood, affords the engineer and crew a little more crash protection in case of an accident, hence its existence. No crash damage should be suffered today, however. The high hood is the fourth locomotive in this 7-locomotive lash-up, offering it plenty of protection. Seeing movement, I rushed up to the head end of the locomotive to watch it as it backed back into Greenville Yard. It seemed my theory about 237 building out its train for Atlanta was correct. Soon after it began moving, it came to yet another stop. I took advantage of its slow speed by dashing back down the road to a clearing I was aware of in hopes of getting another shot of the high hood unit. Unfortunately for me, the train stopped well short of my current location, so I decided to skip back up the road in search of another clearing with hopes of seeing the locomotives. It's springtime here in Greenville, growing season. This means the buds on the trees completely obscured my view of the high hood. It was there, and I could make it out relatively clearly, but not nearly well enough for me to consider using this spot as a photo location. So, I called upon Nick.
Lunch, Nick, this is the moment you've been waiting for! Go! Go! Go!
And go he did. I present to you my very first train captured with a drone. And what a train it is. As Nick carefully executes a panoramic circle around the locomotive, you can see just how compact it is, especially compared to the SD60E and Gevos directly behind it. This locomotive was built for local jobs and yard work after all. It doesn't need the horsepower or girth often found with those big mainline locomotives. Still, the high hood certainly holds its own among its colleagues, giving this power move a rather antiquarian appeal. Flying in low and slow, Nick navigates his drone towards the roof of the high hood. Here we can see its shunting equipment, the two distinctive amber beacons indicating radio control operations, its radio control equipment, and of course, that beautiful P5 train horn, my personal favorite. Here at Mainline South, I oft bring attention to the length of these mighty mainline freights. Well, let me tell you, there is absolutely no better way to capture the magnitude of modern freight trains than with a drone. Nick flies his drone up as high as it will go, and even still he can't capture but a quarter of our freight train as it prepares to depart for Atlanta. It is said in almost every episode of Mainline South, but once again, I'm forced to say it again. That's one impressive train. Even when looking down the line away from the head unit, you can't even begin to fathom the end of this train. ATCS and a source at Greenville Station tells me it's stretching far beyond the Poinsett Highway Bridge. 237 often consists of intermodal and manifest cuts, and it can range from a measly 2 cars long to today's behemoth, clocking in over what I've calculated to be roughly 2 2/3 miles long. Wanting to fact-check this statistic, I follow the train all the way to Greenville Station, here at the final curve before the first yard switch, and there's still no end in sight. It was at this point that I remembered to check the ATCS. We were almost at the Greenville Amtrak station when, damn, the train was moving. I put the pedal to the metal to try to get the K-Drive crossing, the closest place to watch the train speed by, but alas, I missed it. But certainly not for a lack of trying. I made an honorable attempt to try to catch up with the head end of this train, but by the time we got through some red lights near Easley, it was just too late. Still, in the world of rail fanning, you get what you get, and I got a whole heck of a lot today. My special thanks to Nick Delahaye and his expert drone piloting. He made this high hood hunt possible. Thank you for watching, and until our paths cross again.